My name is David Vogelpohl, and thanks everybody for coming to Super Affiliate Publishing with WordPress. So, for those of you that don't know me, I've been in affiliate marketing for about 17 years, including development and design with WordPress since WordPress came out, but before that as well. I run an agency in Austin called Marketing Clique, where we do design or development and online marketing, which encompasses affiliate marketing. So this conference is a really good fit for me because it encompasses both of the things that my company focuses on. We've done this presentation a few times at other affiliate summits, and we've covered different topics along the way. We don't just recycle the same material each time. We actually try to take it a step further. So maybe we could start by getting a show of hands for how many WordPress developers are in the audience. You're a programmer, you're a WordPress person. So a couple of people here and there. What about content authors? You contribute to WordPress, but you don't necessarily administer the whole site. Okay, a few people there. And then this is your site. It's your baby, and you're in charge of keeping it up to date. Okay, great.
Does that cover everyone?
I think it covers everyone. We had a few people that didn't raise your hand. So the content that you're going to see in this presentation, some of it does require a developer to execute. And so what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the instructions you'll give to them to use some of these techniques, but a lot of the stuff you're going to see is not developer necessary. So that's kind of the gist of the type of information we're going to go over. So that was a little bit about me and a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. And then this is my co-presenter, Mr. Ben Metcalfe, and he's going to tell you a little bit about his background and what he's all about.
Thank you. So, hey, I'm Ben Metcalfe. I'm one of the two founders of WP Engine, which is exhibiting here as well. We're a managed WordPress platform, so we're a great place to run WordPress, particularly if you need things taken care of in addition to just the hosting, like optimizing, managing your WordPress, keeping it backed up. Crucially, keeping it up to date when new versions come in. If you obviously are using WordPress, you'll probably be very familiar with a lot of those pain points. And whereas traditional hosting puts that on your back or a consultant's or whatever, we take care of that for you. That's essentially what we do. And we've been doing this almost 4 years now. I've been involved with WordPress even longer than that. So hopefully between the two of us, there's a bank of knowledge here. We'll be able to go through some of the different things which we've got lined up for you. And a little bit of Q&A at the end, I think, as well. Is that right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Great. So with that in mind, I'm going to start off by handing over to David, and I'll take over the second half.
Great. I'm going to use the walking mic. Great, thank you. Okay, so Super Affiliate Publishing with WordPress. I'm going to cover basically 4 topics. I'm going to talk about advertising plugins, the use of using a plugin to manage your ad inventory, SEO plugins and best practices, social media integration, and custom post types. And that's the one I think I'm most excited about, and I think the one that's most underutilized by WordPress administrators. So we're going to start with advertising plugins. So how do they work? First off, the basic definition is they're a tool that allows a publisher to manage their ad inventory. It allows you to easily add ads, use different billing models, insert affiliate links, those kind of things. And you can do a lot with it, right? You can create a CPC ad and an affiliate ad and a CPM ad and a flat rate ad that all rotate in the same spot or have different positions throughout the site. And you can certainly do these kind of things by modifying the template files and using widgets and things like that, but the ad plugins allow you to do it through an easy-to-use interface that allows you to create lots and lots of ads and lots of different contexts very, very easily. This is a screenshot from an ad plugin called OIO Publisher, and we can see that just very quickly we can increase the rotation, the ad queue length, even some design elements like the spacing between ads, buffers, and things like that. So it's really, really powerful rather than just slipping that embed code in a widget or, again, trying to modify your template files. You can use a plugin to manage those ad units. Now, I actually created a demo video specifically for Affiliate Summit. So to give you guys a little background, the last Affiliate Summit, Ben and I built a website live on stage in 35 minutes. That was a very nerve-wracking presentation. We had a couple of internet glitches. We had to practice it over and over again. So for Affiliate Summit West, we want to kind of eliminate some of those variables. We pulled it off. It was successful. But this time around, what we wanted to do was we like the deep dive and kind of the move through the different screens. So what we've done on some of these is actually created videos that take you through this. So I've done the AdRotate plugin, which is the one I recommend. And I actually take you through setting up an ad unit, doing a CPC ad and an affiliate ad and a CPM ad, all through the interface without any coding at all. Very, very easy to do. The AdRotate plugin, you can access at bit.ly/WP AdRotate. And then Syed with WP Beginner, he's actually here. He's a super affiliate himself, has a nice article about ad plugins and his thoughts on all of them. So you can reach that at bit.ly/WP Ad Plugins. So go check out that article, but AdRotate is great. I've spoken with the developer, I've used the plugin. It's a solid plugin to use. And we'll talk more about plugins later. I'm not normally a plugin guy, but for certain situations, particularly where you're looking for a lot of functionality in one fell swoop, AdRotate is a good choice for that. Okay, so the next one are SEO plugins, and you've probably used some of these before, but the basic gist is it allows you to easily and quickly do things like enter metadata, hide pages or no index pages from search engines, and all kinds of other stuff. My favorite one is Yoast SEO. Now we talk about plugins. You know, one of the things you want to look for is a trusted developer, someone that is going to continue to work on their plugin. Even if they're a good developer, if they're not going to continue to work on the plugin, that's a problem for you. That's actually the #1 decision I make when looking whether or not I'm going to use a plugin. Is it someone that's trusted, and are they continuing to work on it? And Yoast is about as good as it gets when it comes to that. Very, very smart guy, and his plugin's very powerful. So let's look a little bit deeper into Yoast and what you can do. So this is the metadata, the title and description. Basically, again, what shows up on search results. You guys aren't newbies. You've probably seen this before. You can also enter keywords, but as we all know, you should not enter keywords because they're totally worthless. But where it gets really interesting is in some of these other tools. Yoast also has a plugin that allows you to deal with analytics, which is also really handy. But we can create an XML sitemap. It's actually one of the few plugins that works really well at creating XML sitemaps for WordPress. There's a couple of others out there, but again, they're not being continually developed. Some of them are buggy and don't work at all, but Yoast is awesome and it totally works. You can modify and manage your permalinks, internal links, RSS, and import-export. If, say, you're running the next most popular SEO plugin is all-in-one SEO. But if you wanted to migrate to Yoast, it's one click to migrate all of the settings, the primary settings, mainly the metadata, the title and the description, directly into Yoast. I've done it a dozen times. It takes about 5 minutes each time. Very, very handy. Again, I did a demo video of this, bit.ly/Yoast demo. That'll take you all through the settings, show you what's going on, why I make certain decisions on certain settings. And again, I want to give you guys some kind of pragmatic advice to be able to take back and do something with it. Great. Now we're going to talk about social media integration. And I've given you a few plugin recommendations before, but this time I'm not going to do that. Talked a little bit earlier about how I'm not really a plugin guy. Plugins, again, can be very dangerous for your website. They can slow your website down. They can introduce security vulnerabilities, and they can make your website not necessarily as future-proofed. So what I like to do for social media is I like to take the embed code for the social media buttons and place them in the template files. Now, if you're not a developer or not comfortable with code at all, this might be a little beyond you, so you might need a little help, but there's a lot of advantages to this. So the example that we're looking at here, I don't know if there's a laser on this or whatever, but we have the header there on the right side, and then this is the file that we're editing, and then I put in the Facebook like embed code over here on your left. And so the reason that we want to do this is that it's faster. There's not another plugin that's loaded in WordPress. There's not another concern for security and all the other things that go along with plugins. And then it's future-proof. Again, I don't really care. I mean, Facebook, of course, will keep their stuff up to date and so on and so forth. So there's some security there. So when you can, you want to modify template files. Plugins are really for the weak. But again, for things like the ad rotation, the ad plugins and Yoast, where it's a trusted developer, it does make a lot of sense. So you have to make that call. With my dev team, if I ever hear the word plugin, we immediately stop what we're talking about and dig deep into why are we using the plugin, should we be using it, and should we really be modifying the theme, or possibly we create our own plugins. That might be a little bit beyond you. But again, you need to have that level of trust. You're installing software some random developer out there created onto your website. This isn't the App Store, right? There's a lot of things that these plugins can do to hurt your website. If you install an app on your phone, it's not going to mess your phone up, but a plugin can totally hose your site. If you really want to use a plugin, I personally like the floating social bar. Now, Ben, you've had some less than satisfactory results with it.
I think it's fine. I just had some issues somewhere. But it's a good plugin to use if you do want to go down the plugin route, as Dave mentioned.
Yeah, that mic's not working. Here you go.
Hey, can you hear me now? Yeah, so yeah, we've had, it's a solid plugin. There were one or two issues that I actually couldn't recall when we were talking earlier in the speaker room with it. But if you're going to go down that plugin direction and you don't want to embed your own social plugins, social snippets of HTML directly into your code, it's definitely one of the more solid ones. Nevertheless, it's the fact of life that many plugins ultimately have issues somewhere along the lines.
So the last point I'm going to cover is custom post types. I would really actually like to know, and be honest, like I know the phrase sounds kind of familiar to some folks, but do you actually honestly know what a custom post type is with WordPress? Can I get a show of hands? So that's about average. When we interview developers, that's actually one of the first questions we ask them is, do you know what a custom post type is? For us, if they say no, we kick them out. But I won't kick you guys out. We'll show you what it is. So it's actually, you've probably been exposed to them before, and they're extremely powerful and will change the way you think about how you design your site and how you plan for future content. And we use this on pretty much every site that we work on. So a custom post type is a page in the admin area with custom fields for specific types of content. And I'm going to show you some examples and why you should use it and how you should use it. But it works for basically modular content, things like reviews, videos, directories, landing pages, e-commerce. So if you're an affiliate publisher and you're doing a review site, and I was talking to somebody about this today, they're basically using the WYSIWYG in WordPress to create all these review pages. Well, there's a lot of problems with that. There's consistency problems. You can fat finger the code a little bit or the WYSIWYG and totally mess up the formatting of the page. So custom post types help you avoid all that. And I'll show you how. So this is a custom post type we created for a customer that has a directory of radio stations. And so this is a WordPress admin page, just like you've all seen on the back end. But in this case, I'm adding a station, and a station has a name, it has a featured image, it has a genre, and it has a description. And these are just plain text fields and a little image uploader. So there's no WYSIWYG. There's just plain text and an image. And what happens in the template file is it calls all that information into the design and then spits it out into the rendered web page. So you as the editor, or if you're getting other people to help you with your website, especially if they're newbies or not very sophisticated with WordPress, can easily go through and add this information. And it becomes, again, a directory of information that you can use in other places on your website. Again, with the review site, if you were doing, say, a top 10 list of products in your reviews, then, again, you could call out, say, just the station name and just the primary image and not the other elements in the custom post type. And so this is the rendered version of this custom post type. I mean, obviously, there's a header or more to the web page. This is just a little part with the information. But we can see we have the station name, the genre, the description, and the logo. The use of WordPress as a content management system, the way most people use it, you're really using it as a WYSIWYG editor for your website. Traditional content management systems, in my experience, have been more modular in the approach, again, with the custom fields that basically build out pages. And so that is, the use of custom post types is basically that philosophy. The other advantage to this is we've all done website redesigns, right? So you do your website redesign, you mess with your CSS and so on, and all your internal page layouts get totally hosed, right? Like the H2s look weird and so on and so forth. Well, if you use custom post types with these plain text fields and images, you can change your template file to your blue in the face as long as you call this simple data into the design, and you can redesign as much as you want without necessarily affecting the layout of the page, and keep all the same data exactly the same way every single time. So again, this is the custom post type here on the right and the associated fields that line up. So you almost definitely need a developer to create custom post types. The good news is that it doesn't actually add a lot to the development time. What we do is we wireframe the back end and we wireframe the front end. And when we give it to the developer, usually it adds about 10 to 15% of the time to create that page to spin up the custom post type. If you have an internal developer that's not familiar with custom post types, this bit.ly/WPCPT is the codex, the information from WordPress that shows you how to create a custom post type. So share that link with them and point them in the right direction. If you have a developer that you're interviewing and they say they don't know anything about custom post types, don't give them that link, kick them out of your office and find a developer that does. Advanced high-end developers all use custom post types. Our guys, when we have a situation where for some reason we're not going to use one, go nuts. Like, what are we doing? Why am I not doing this? I have to convince them the client wanted it that way for A, B, or C. It is the best way to use WordPress for creating your pages. There's a lot of themes with custom post types, and this is probably where you've been exposed to them before. But if you go to Themeforest and get, you know, a recipe theme or a restaurant theme, some of the pages in there with those special fields on the back end, those are custom post types. So again, this is what you want to do to make your site scalable and to make it future-proof. Again, you're just collecting the little text and image data, and then the theme can make it look however you want. If you have to use a plugin and you're on a limited budget and you want to try it out, the Easy Custom Post Type plugin will help you play around with this a little bit. So if you have like a little website somewhere or dev environment where you're not going to mess too much up and you want to play around with it and start to get a feel for it, try the Easy CPT, bit.ly/Easy CPT to set up some test custom post types and try to get a feel for it. But if you start thinking about your website as modular content, you can basically end up using WordPress as an application platform. As a matter of fact, at the last WordCamp in San Francisco, it's the State of the Word address, one of Matt Mullenweg's key points was that the next evolution in WordPress is as an application platform. And the application platform can only work when data is segmented, when you have these fields that you can replicate over and over again. People are using WordPress as a content management system for iPhone apps and Android apps and, of course, web applications. And we do that as well. And the only way that you're able to do that is with custom post types in those custom fields. And again, this is the next evolution of WordPress. It will be much, much easier to use and much more intuitive in creating information than in using it in different ways. So that's actually it for my presentation. And next up is Mr. Ben.
Awesome. Thank you. Oh, you left me hanging here on this Windows machine. Yeah, I'm a Mac person, so here we go. Ooh, Windows. How many people here are Mac people? Yeah, once you go Mac, you never go back. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm just curious in this sort of interlude between the two parts of this presentation. We've been very lucky to be able to be invited back to give a presentation each affiliate summit on WordPress. I'm just curious, how many people have seen a presentation by us at a previous event? Put your hand up. Not many. That's really interesting, and it's good to know because we would like to be invited back again, and we never know whether to do new content or whether to just sort of cover similar topics each time for a new audience. So that's really useful. Thank you. So I'm going to talk to you on my side of the presentation about 4 areas. Product feed integration, which I'll explain what that is, speed optimization, link tracking, and analytics. Some of these are actually based on some of the feedback that we received during the questions and answers at the last affiliate summit East in Philadelphia. So there will be some Q&A at the end, by the way. So if you have questions either about what we're talking about or sort of general WordPress questions, we'll be more than happy to answer at the end. So product feed integration is essentially when you are an affiliate and a service or a vendor that you're using actually provides you with a large bulk amount of items to sell. For example, a online tech retailer that can give you their entire catalog, and you can go away and do something with that, either manually entering that information or taking an XML dump or a CSV dump or something like that and doing something with a large bulk of data. I'm curious, how many people here have done something like that with their WordPress site? How many people are interested in doing something like that with their WordPress site? Sure. So that's a common question that we get, which is why, for the first time, I really wanted to cover it here for you. So essentially, there are two ways of doing this. As you can see from my diagram here, you can take those XML files. Did we decide there was a laser pointer on this?
There probably is.
There is. Look at that, and it's green. I hope that's not one of those high-res ones where if I scan it, you will go blind into the audience. So anyway, if you take your XML files that you would get from the affiliate merchant that you're working with, you can just pump them straight into your WordPress and output loads of pages. That sounds great, and potentially it's great, but the problem is loads of other people will be doing it as well. So I'm going to cover some issues as to ways in which you might want to avoid that. Because the other way of doing it, which takes a little more work, is to actually take the content and the items that you think are the most interesting, some of your own ideas and some of your own offers, some flair and some creativity, and actually create some alternatives. So we're going to go through the two different ways and talk a little bit about the ways in which you might want to take a number of items and put them on your WordPress site, which seems to be, from talking to people at these events, a common use case that you'd want to do with WordPress. So okay, so you've got these bulk listings, and you're going to put them through. The problem is, as I mentioned, is that you might be doing this and creating these pages here, but then so is the next person, and probably the person sitting next to you. In fact, everyone in this room might be going to the same retailer, taking the same files and generating the same pages. And yes, yours look nicer than the next person, but from an SEO perspective, all of those product descriptions, all of those titles, they're all the same. What's really going to set you off from the next person? There are some ways in which you might want to do that if you already have an existing site with existing traffic. But generally speaking, it's something that I don't recommend you do. If you do want to do it, however, and like I said, if you have a site with existing traffic, then there is a service called datafeeder.com. Note that there's no E at the end of feeder. And I have not personally used them because I am not in the affiliate business, but I've spoken to a couple of people that host with WP Engine that have used them. And essentially, they will take those feeds and do various types of filtering and sorting and output them into your WordPress site for you. So they have a plugin. It is a paid service. It is something you have to pay a little bit of money for. But if that's what you want to do, then check that out. And they work with a lot of different merchants. But the alternative, and as I said, one that I recommend and suggest, which really isn't a technology a question or a technology decision, is one of actually creating unique pages that nobody else has, because you actually have decided to go in, pick out the products that are most relevant to your audience, and actually build editorialized products. Because at the end of the day, writing editorial is one of the best uses of WordPress. So how would you go about doing that? Well, as David mentioned, at the last affiliate summit in Philadelphia, we actually gave a presentation where we completely built that type of site end-to-end in 35 minutes. The good news, I think, is if you attended that conference, you can log in and view the video of that session. And if you didn't, I think in a couple of months' time, that video will be available on YouTube, and you'll be able to look at it. But I will give you a little sneak tips here as to how we went about doing it. So, as David mentioned, these custom post types, the idea that you're not just entering flat blog posts and pages, but you're actually putting in rich data into your WordPress site, is something that you may be doing, you may not be doing, or you may be doing without realizing it. Something like WooCommerce. How many people here have used WooCommerce or have heard of it? A few people have heard of it. WooCommerce is really, really good. It's a free open source plugin that essentially turns your WordPress site into an online store, either because you're going to sell something or because you're going to build a store or some kind of gallery type experience for an affiliate front to a third-party merchant. One of the things that WooCommerce sets up for you is custom post types, so that you can model inside your WordPress products that you want to take, that you're affiliating to promote to your audience. As you can see here, this is your standard WordPress admin bar, and where you would normally have posts and pages, you've now got products. Here you can see, for example, some products that we entered, and I'll show you what that looks like inside. But we're setting up a store here to sell those keyboards that you would that you can attach to your iPad to add a keyboard to it. So we can add in the different items that the vendor has provided us that we can offer through their affiliate network, explain that it's in stock, put in the price, we could categorize it, etc., and then actually produce on our WordPress site essentially a mini store. We could have just ingested the feeds, but as I said, every single person then would be describing the same item in the same way, and there's no product differentiation between your site and the next.
One thing you can do, though, if you take the feed in, is you can take it in for the primary data, say the price and the title, and then you can write unique descriptions from that, and you can do all that within Woo.
And so, yeah, so as you can see in here, this doesn't look like a regular set of pages like you would expect, or a regular set of posts. Instead, we've gone through and added them and created in all of these different fields. And inside, you'll have to look at the video because obviously we don't have 35 minutes to go through it all. But you can go in and add all the URLs that they would click through to, and then it's all modeled nicely. And then what you end up with is nice product pages. These are very sparse because we wanted to keep it simple. But you can click to buy it and go through to the affiliate link. You can have pictures and your own custom descriptions. It kind of makes sense. This is a much better way of managing an affiliate experience for your traffic and your readers. The great thing about WooCommerce is a couple of things here. As I said, it gives you a shopping cart experience or a product showcase experience, depending on what you want to do and the way that works with the affiliate links you're working with. It still allows you to have blogs and reviews and editorial sections and all this additional value, all those additional ways to drive traffic and to obtain traffic to your site. It doesn't remove all of that existing functionality that you're experienced and you're familiar with WordPress. It is the most popular e-commerce WordPress plugin for e-commerce, and as I said, it's free and open source. And if you do want to do that CSV and XML update from those bulk uploaders, in addition to the service that I talked about, you can also buy a couple of add-ons. They do some add-ons for a small amount of money that will actually ingest feeds from some of the more popular retailers. And before I move on, in the break before, I know that you also mentioned another service that you've had some experience with.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because when you get a feed, you don't get the SEO value from it, right? Everybody else has the same descriptions, and unless you have enough unique content, you're not going to rank for that. So what we do in those situations when we work with publishers is we start by focusing them on the unique content, product reviews, gear guides, stuff like that. And then we use the feeds and the data just as it comes through to augment that content. So what we do is like price comparison search engines, product listings, related product listings. We grab that through the feeds. We've used Pop Shops for that. Pop Shops is really powerful. You take in the affiliate feeds from CJ and ShareSale and the merchants and wherever, and you put it into Pop Shops, and then you can segment the feeds by category, by product. You can pick what you want to show up, and then there's a plugin for WordPress, and so you then inject that information into WordPress along with your unique content, and so your unique content brings them in through SEO, and you can also, of course, pay for traffic or whatnot, and then the not unique content provides additional value to the visitor. So for example, we have one, I won't tell you who it is, but I'll tell you the niche. They're in the hunting space, and they have hunters that come to their site and use it as a price comparison search engine, and it all goes through Pop Shops, and then the unique content is kind of separate and apart from that. So whatever your niche is, draw them in with the unique stuff, use stuff like Pop Shops to get the feed in to provide the additional value, but Ben is absolutely right. The unique content's where it's at, that's what gets people in, and then use the feeds to augment the unique content to deliver additional value, which of course you make money on.
Yes, the one thing to walk away from here is not to take a load of feeds, upload them to WordPress, money in the bank account, because everyone else is going to be doing that, and there's no differentiator. So the next one I want to talk about is a very common question that we get asked a lot, which is about optimizing for speed. I'm just curious, how many people here would like their website to be a little faster? Everyone. And when we talk about speed, it's not just in terms of the optimization, it's not just the time in which the site is delivered to your visitor. The other issue here, which is not about speed though, is about capacity. It's about how much traffic you can get in an hour or in a minute or whatever before your site falls over and suddenly no one can visit it. If you guys get on the radio or if you get a spot on TV or something, how many people here don't want their site to suddenly go down at that moment? Probably everyone. Yes, you're getting bored putting your hands up, sorry. But you get my point. It's something which obviously is important. And with WordPress, whilst it's an excellent piece of software, it doesn't actually do a lot of the caching and optimizations that you're going to want to think about out of the box. It is something that you will need to do yourself unless you are with a managed WordPress platform. Yes, we're one of them, but there are other companies as well out there. Those types of companies will actually do a lot of this bit for you. If you're on a shared host, if you're on a dedicated or a VPS, you need to be doing this, otherwise your site will fall over in the event of getting a large amount of traffic, and certainly isn't going to be as speedy as it could be. So yes, at the end of the day, this comes down to cream. Cache rules everything around me. Yes, I'm a geek. This is probably not the kind of cache that you guys came here for, but at the end of the day, caching and setting up your WordPress site to cache is very important. How many people here are running some kind of caching plugin or know what I'm talking about when I say a caching plugin? So there's a lot of people here that are not. If you walk away from here with one piece of information, don't think of any of his information. Think about this one, which is, no, his information is good as well. But do walk away with the idea that installing a caching plugin of some kind is vital to the optimization and the delivery of your site. So if you are going to use a caching plugin, perhaps one of the single biggest optimizations you can make, then I would suggest that you use W3 Total Cache, which is basically the leading standard in caching. It's completely free. It's available in the open source repository. Plugins, add new, type in W3 Total Cache. Make sure you're installing one that's exactly named as that. There's a few other jokers out there that have named theirs very similar. If it's not specifically that, that's not the one you want. When you there's a question at the end. Can I take the question at the end? Is that okay? So when you install it, there's going to be a lot of different options and configurations that you could do. The great news is you don't need to do any of them. You just install it and you don't have to worry about any of those. If you want to go in and noodle around, you can, but you don't have to change anything. My only one piece of advice, which I think I've given it every time we've talked about this, is don't run more than one caching plugin at the same time. If anyone remembers Ghostbusters, it's like crossing the streams. That's only going to be a joke if you're over about 35. The other things to do is to test the speed of your host. At the end of the day, if your host is very slow, if there's thousands and thousands of sites running on the same server, particularly if you're on shared hosting, that's pretty common, by the way, then it's never going to be that fast because you're competing with all those other people. Webpagetest.org is a great site. You can check that out. It will tell you not only how fast your site loads, but it gives you a grading A to F on a number of different areas, and will tell you what you can do to improve it. Content delivery networks, they're really interesting if you get a lot of traffic. That's when you can actually offload some of that traffic to other servers around the world that are closer to the visitor that's visiting your site. Those things cost a little money. They can be a little expensive, but if you have to suddenly go on a TV show or something like that and you actually need to get that sudden performance boost, that's a good way of doing that. And of course, installing smaller numbers of plugins are going to also help. We actually talked about this in this presentation last year, optimizing for speed and scale, I think was the name of the presentation.
Oh, yeah, DSW, yeah.
Yes, so, and the bit.ly link there actually is a link to, I think, the YouTube or the SlideShare, I can't remember, but there's a link to the other. So that one's obviously is now available. Sean makes them available at the end of the year. So you can also look at that on the YouTube video, and that's definitely one to check out.
And just to interject one point, Ben, the reason why speed's important is because of conversion rates. It also affects SEO. It is actually, in some ways, a direct influence of your search rankings, particularly like bounce rates and things like that. But the slower your site is, the lower your conversion rates are. So you want it really as fast as you can.
So yeah, installing a fewer number plugins. I just want to say, some people ask me, well, how many plugins is too many? And that's kind of hard to say, really, because it depends on the server you're running on. But you certainly don't want to be running 30, 40, 50 plugins. I check out people's WordPress sites, and they're running 50 plugins. All of those are having to load every time someone visits a page, and that's just suboptimal. As David was mentioning, if you can put some of these things into the code directly to remove a plugin, that's always very helpful. If you have lots of plugins that are installed but not active, over time it's probably worth just getting rid of them completely rather than having them sit there in an unactivated state. Link tracking. So how many people here have been to a site and they're obviously an affiliate for a third-party service, but rather than giving you a crazy URL, they give you a nice little short URL that looks nice and cute? How many people have seen that? That's great because not only, in fact, let me show you my slide on that. Not only are you getting rid of this nasty, long, weird URL and making it nice and short and looking more like it's within your site because it's your domain, but it's also tracking that outgoing click. So you've just sent a lead to that third party, and you're going to trust their network to make sure that they recorded it. You probably want to be able to have your own metrics and your own analysis just to make sure that your records sync up with theirs. You may not know whether they've made the conversion and bought something, but if at the end of the month you've sent 1,000 clicks over to the merchant and they say, yeah, you only sent us 10, clearly you can turn around and say, I think I disagree. So link tracking and installing a plugin that will actually manage that within inside of your WordPress is very easy to do and very much recommended. The two that I've seen and talked to people about and they've used a lot, and so therefore I recommend, is Pretty Links Lite, which is the free option here. If you just want to create a load of your affiliate links and make them look like that more sort of shorter, more attractive URL. And if you really are interested in the metrics and the analytics behind it, Thirsty Affiliates, which is also free, but with their stats package, which is a small, I think it's $30. It's probably, again, some money well spent. And to give you an idea of what that looks like, you can see that you get these really pretty graphs that show you the number of outbound links that you got. You can see when they came, which URLs they clicked on, where they came from, etc. And there's various searching and other things you can do. And as it says down here, you can download it to CSV. So if you want to put it in a spreadsheet and have a look at it, compare it to the reporting that you're getting, and make sure that it's all matched up. Again, this is something that a lot of people are doing, and I think it makes sense if you're growing a network and you want to make sure that your stats match those of the networks. So finally, I just want to touch on analytics. People are always asking me, well, I'm using Google Analytics, that's great, what else should I be using? Honestly, Google Analytics tends to cut it. I think it's great. You can use WordPress stats if you run Jetpack, but honestly, Google Analytics is great. So a few of the tips I would have for Google Analytics, and these are some common gotchas. First of all, check to see whether the Google Analytics tracking is already built into your theme. Many of the themes inside the preferences window will let you just take your GA number, you know, that unique code that starts with UA, and be able to just insert it, and then it just goes away and does it. You don't have to worry about where it's putting it in the page and all this kind of stuff and how it's doing it. The point is there are plugins that will do this for you, but again, this is to David's point, don't run that as a plugin. Why do you need a plugin to insert what should be on every page anyway? If it's not within your theme, just take the code that Google gives you and just stick it inside the HTML. That way there's one less plugin that's running every single time the pages load. Some people ask me, should I put that at the top in the header? Should I put it at the bottom? Whatever. The latest Google Analytics code is asynchronous, which means it will load in the background while the rest of your page is loading. It won't stop the page from downloading. And essentially, that means it's fine to go in the head. It also has the benefit that as your page is loading, the page doesn't, which happened with the old code, the page would stop, it would go to Google, it would make the connection with Google Analytics, and then it would load the rest of the page, which would slow it down. Now it continues that and it goes off and makes the connection to Google separately. That's even better than putting the code at the bottom, because if people get halfway down the page of loading and then they leave, the Google Analytics at the bottom never even was hit, and you didn't even capture that. So this is the best thing. So you want to go in and make sure that you're using that latest code. And if you have been using Google Analytics for some time, you might want to log back into your Google Analytics site and just get the latest code from Google. That's if your theme isn't already doing it. So those are the 4 from me. You've had the 4 from David. We really want to open it up to Q&A. I know there's a gentleman over there with a question. I don't know if, sir, if you could come to the mic because they're recording it for the people at home. And if anyone else has any questions or anything about what we've just spoken about or kind of high-level general WordPress questions, perhaps people want to make a line after this gentleman, we'd be happy to answer them. Is that right?
That'll work.
Sir?
Yeah, no, I use WP Super Cache. Mm-hmm. And you said that W3 Total Cache was better. Just want to know why and...
Sure. So W3, so WP Super Cache is also a good plugin. It's not far off. Frederick Towns, who's the guy that basically has built the W3 Total Cache plugin, spends his full time working on that plugin as his full thing, and actually has staff that work on it as well. So I'm a big fan of open source, and indeed this is an open source. But both of these plugins are open source, but there is a small company behind that constantly working on that plugin. And so I think a lot of the features that it offers are a little more developed than WP Super Cache, which has also a bunch of good people working on it, but not full time.
Yeah, W3 Total Cache has a really good organization. I mean, one of the gentlemen that spoke on another WordPress session we did at Affiliate Summit East 2 years ago was Willie Jackson, and he's a phenomenal developer, and he's a staff member of the W3 Total Cache team. So that's what I'm talking about. When you pick a plugin, pick it from a company that's backing it up, that's doing continuous development, that's making money from it. Even if they're a smart developer, like Ben, if he created a plugin, he's not doing anything with the plugin now. He's working, with the company he co-founded. And so Ben's a great guy, but that doesn't mean he's keeping up with the plugin.
I think one of the things I would say, and I'm curious to get your thoughts, but I would say is install the other one, run both, one after the other, and do a web page test.org and see which is faster.
Okay, I'm also an affiliate, so if you guys want to sign up, WP Engine, they're pretty good. Actually, they're very good. And it's thenerdlife.com/WP Engine. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
My question is about redirects and changing the URL structure. That is so easy for a person to do without realizing that if they change the directory structure, you have to go in and write in the .htaccess file all these redirects. Do they have, I mean, it would seem like WordPress should figure out that if people change the URLs, they're going to need a rewrite. So what do you think about that?
So I'm going to just repeat the question because the microphone wouldn't go through. So basically, if you change the URL structure of your site, you mean specifically in the permalinks, like if you take the date off and you change all the URLs?
Yeah, if you recategorize.
Yeah, if you recategorize, then WordPress suddenly, any of those inbound links suddenly were going to break, and WordPress won't suddenly know to go, I need to move this back over. I don't know if you want to talk about it. I can answer that briefly as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little theoretical because WordPress doesn't do it. Now, there's the common conception that WordPress is good for SEO, and it is, right? Because they follow standards, and that's what Google looks for standards. They look for the what's the RFQ or what's the HTML. Anyways, they follow the HTML standards, which is what Google looks for when they index the page. But it's not like forward thinking, right? Like a standard WordPress install does not have the ability to enter metadata. So when WordPress thinks about creating core, they're not thinking about, I'm changing the directory structure, so now I need to worry about all my old links and worry about collecting that. And it's certainly a bad user experience. It could be something that comes down the pipe in the future, but it's just not something that they address. And so, yeah, absolutely, you want to get those redirects in place, and it does present dangerous situations. And we see this all the time with like website redesigns or migrations to WordPress, where people just don't think, geez, all my old page names are the same as my new ones, but the old ones had .htm on the end. So all those links are not going to basically work anymore. You have to do these wildcard redirects and things like that. So yeah, it is a bit of a manual process to get it in place. It's good that you know to do it, and maybe in the future we'll see builds where that's more native. Ben, your thoughts?
I think
Yes.
you should make a plugin that does that.
I was about to say, I can't give you a plugin suggestion that will do that. I think the two... It does what, sorry? If you change the permalink URL structure?
There are specialized plugins that do that.
Oh, great.
Specifically. Yeah,
Interesting.
I don't know them offhand, but they do exist because I've used them before.
Interesting. Well, my recommendation, I'm going to go ahead and have a look at that. My recommendation is to always try and get your permalink structure what you want the moment you start the site. It's so vital because you frankly don't want to be changing that midstream. Even if you've got plugins, and I'm going to go away and look at that plugin, I'll chat to these people afterwards, but you still ideally don't want to be running plugins. Like we said, you don't want to be running too many plugins and unless you need to. You really don't want to get sort of caught up in that. You want to keep that URL structure the same once you've
But for those of us that blew it,
Don't blow it.
As a matter of policy, we actually never use a plugin that modifies htaccess. We've had problems with that in the past, so be very, very cautious if you're going to be using plugins that modify htaccess. Nothing will hose your site faster than messing up your htaccess file.
Hi there.
Hi, my name is Kush. I had a quick question. The WooCommerce was intriguing. A friend of mine who owns a small business, he only has 3 products, but people want to buy his products online. He doesn't have an e-commerce store. Would you recommend something like WooCommerce for 3 products or Shopify or something like that?
Yeah, I would recommend WooCommerce for 3 products or 30,000 products.
I'm a little more platform agnostic, I guess. So I do like other like BigCommerce and Volusion and things like that for like big product categories. But yeah, Woo is solid, really, really solid. So.
Do we need anything like better WP security or anything like that to more protect our WordPress site from hackers or anything?
Yeah, I can speak to that, and I don't know whether David has a view. And we're being told we have 15 minutes, so if you had a question, you'll want to jump up quickly. Thank you. Yes, so there are a number of ongoing security and hacking attempts to WordPress, just like there are any other website. It's nothing specific to WordPress. But we're definitely seeing more and more of them as WordPress is now 1 in 5 websites on the internet. I definitely think that it's worth running. There's better WP security, there's WordFence, there's all sorts of interesting plugins out there that will stop people from trying to do various different malicious things. My take, and I'm obviously in a biased view, is that to some extent your host should be thinking about these things. Because loads of attacks on your site, those are going to be attacked elsewhere as well. So if the host is actually intercepting those and seeing certain types of attacks, they can apply that protection to all of the other sites, even the other sites that haven't encountered those yet. So by doing that in numbers and applying it to all of the sites, whichever sites are getting hacked or having attempts to being hacked, the knowledge there of how to stop that can then be applied to everyone. Whereas if we all just look after our own site, then that knowledge isn't being spread around. So I think that's one of the reasons why the plugins are great if you're on the type of hosting that won't provide that. But it is something that to think about. And it's not just managed WordPress hosts. There are dedicated servers as well that will also protect you from a lot of that. There's also Cloudflare that you can put on front of any site, regardless of where you're hosting it. And they immediately stop a number of these attacks, as well as offering some caching. And again, they have a free option. But I don't know what you have any thoughts.
Ben, you're definitely the expert on security, so I yield to you.
Hi, my name is Shravan. I think this is one of the best presentations I've seen in this whole event.
Thank you very much. My check is in the post.
My question is on, or rather I'm working on a startup company. One of our challenges, or I've not probably done much research because we are in a design phase, but the question or challenge is to either pick WordPress or one of the other CMS systems that can integrate well with, let's say, a form-based event that can trigger SMS texting. And also does multiple channels of communication. Let's say Facebook posting or SMS texting. That's the outcome of that form. The other challenge is to do a phone or text, rather mobile validation, meaning that I'm saying that this is my cell number. I want to have a code sent out like how Google Voice sends it out. You punch in the code and then comes back and says, yes, you are the person on the web page. That type of plugins I'm interested to know. So.
Yes, so And that's a very technical question that I can dig into, but I'm happy to take the high level, and I'll chat with you a little bit at the lower level on that. So yes, if you want to run that either within a plugin, some of the basic validation and basic stuff can definitely be done in PHP within a plugin. But if you're doing event-based calls to essentially a third-party URL, whether it be within the same servers running WordPress or whether it be somewhere in a completely different data center, decoupling all of that and putting that as a backend somewhere else, and then having the WordPress ping another URL or sticking it into a message queue is probably a good design pattern. By the time I've mentioned message queues and events, I've probably lost most of the other people here at Affiliate Summit, so I'll chat to you afterwards. But yeah, I think you can definitely do that.
What is your experience with content distribution networks, advantages, disadvantages?
Sure. So content, I don't know if you want to take, I don't want to answer all these questions.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely you should be using a CDN. I mean, it's less hops. One way that you can tell the number of hops between you and your server is to do what's called a trace route in the C prompt, the command prompt, that black screen we all remember from back in the day, I'm sure you've used before. And if you type in the phrase trace RT space your domain name, it shows you all the network hops between you and your website. Now, of course, that's different for every single person and every single network. But the point of a content distribution network is it reduces the number of hops. It has less routers to go through before it finds the content. The additional value is you get redundancy, right? There's a copy or little bits of copies of your website all over the web. Your website can actually, your server can actually go down and still resolve if you're using a CDN. So it makes your website faster, it reduces the number of hops, it reduces the frequency, because these servers are, and if you don't know what a CDN is, it's a network of servers all around the world that brings the content closer from a network perspective to the end user. And so yes, absolutely valuable.
So the only downside of CDNs is they can be expensive. Cloudflare that I mentioned has some CDN type behavior, and it's free. CDNs are easier to implement within WordPress than they used to be. The W3 Total Cache plugin, and to the gentleman's question as to why I recommend that over WP Super Cache, W3 Total Cache will actually integrate with a number of CDN providers out of the box, like Max CDN, which is another great company. If you sign up for one of their accounts, you just type in your username and password into W3 Total Cache, and it automatically does all of the background provisioning and changing the site to use the CDN. It's like that. And so setting it up is really easy. You just simply need to look at the price and make sure that you're working out that the price is going to fit for your traffic.
Sorry, one follow-up question.
Yeah.
Have you got any experience running Cloudflare with a massive site? I mean, that's with a large set of data.
So yeah, I mean, I can't disclose some of the specific sites, but we run some sites for Fortune 50 banks and some Fortune 500 companies, and they have used Cloudflare in front of us, and that works well, and a number of large sites that also use it. Cloudflare will certainly work at huge scale, absolutely. You may need to talk to them about setting up the right type of account, but it will definitely work. I've got 5 more minutes. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question?
We can repeat the question on the mic if you don't want to go to the microphone.
I really don't have to start singing and dancing to use the last 5 minutes up. That's not going to make people not ask the question, isn't it?
Okay, we got one. You can speak and we can repeat the question.
You said that you prefer putting snippets of code in the theme. What I prefer doing is using a plugin called Pluginception that enables you to create a plugin just for the specific piece of code. So you can, it's easy transfer every time when you switch themes. You can switch the code on and off.
So that's an interesting point. He was commenting about how he doesn't necessarily always put the code snippets in the template files and the theme files, how he uses a plugin that creates a plugin that has this functionality. So this is really interesting, and his point was that if I create a plugin that does, like a social or whatever it was he was trying to accomplish, that if he changes the theme, that stuff is retained. And that's really valuable. I've not used the plugin you use, so I don't know if I personally would recommend it. I'll check it out. But we do this all the time. When we have special functionality that we want one of the websites we're building to have, we actually create a plugin for that. Because what happens is if we somehow create that plugin within the template files, if we change the template files or change the theme, that's basically all lost. This is one of the challenges if you're using themes from like Themeforest, is a lot of that functionality will be in the theme. So if you switch the theme, you lose it. Well, if you want special functionality, you can create it. And again, a good developer will know how to create, a good PHP developer will know how to create a custom plugin. Well, you create the custom plugin for it, or use a plugin that helps you do that. And then you basically future-proof your site in terms of flipping the theme out. You can quickly go in, flip the theme out, change the design without necessarily affecting the functionality. Ben, what are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I agree. No, I think you're absolutely right. I think it all comes down as well to your savviness of messing around with HTML, how often you're changing themes out, etc., etc. Definitely go away and check out that theme, that plugin. So, well, here's the thing. I think we're being told we need to wrap up. So here's what we're going to do. Where can we find you on the internet, Mr. David Vogelpohl?
You can follow me at Twitter on @DavidVMC, and I'll even give him my email address, I guess, david@marketingclique.com. It's not that hard to guess, and Clique is spelled C-L-I-Q-U-E, but ping me or hit me up here, or just find me around the conference.
So we're going to hang around briefly at the front, but we also have a booth 437, so otherwise we'll be hanging out there for the rest of the afternoon. If you want to come by, ask us any questions you like about WordPress or anything else, we'll be happy to answer them. But other than that, thank you very much for your time, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.